Good morning. Welcome to Battleground Believers. This morning, if you look around the studio, it looks a lot different. No, Matt Carter did not grow a big old beard. He's actually not with us this morning. He is dealing with some health issues and some stuff in his life, in his personal life, and this work. He had a rough week at work, and so we're going to pray for Matt Carter, and we ask that you, as an audience, pray for him. At some point, he'll come in and lay out all the details of exactly what's going on in his life. So this morning, we needed to shoot an episode, and we really wanted to stay consistent with what we had. And this is Chaz Garcia. He moved here from Arizona, met him, became friends, and started talking. I found out he's a believer, and he shared his story, and he sent me a YouTube that he made about his story. I really enjoyed it and thought, man, this is something we could, I think that needs to be shared throughout. Again, our tagline is sharing his story through your story. And we honestly believe that the best way to spread the gospel is through relationships and saying, hey, I was here, I met Jesus, and I became this, and this is how I'm living from there. And that's exactly what we're going to do this morning. So I'm excited to dive in to your story, Chaz. Yeah. And so welcome to Battleground Believers. I always forget to do this. This is the 2 Bar Blues studio. Randy Barr's in charge. And also, please like, share, subscribe. If you would, it helps the algorithms and helps the channel and helps support us. So thank you for that. And we're a bunch of amateurs, as you can tell, but we're getting better. And but anyway, back to Chaz. If you want to kind of share with us, maybe, kind of your testimony and start wherever you feel like. If you had glimpses of faith as a child, but never, like when I was a child, I had moments where people spoke faith into me, but it didn't stick. Mm-hmm. And then we'll just kind of work our way through and see how this conversation goes. So
yeah, I was baptized Catholic when I was a baby. Parents never really did any church or anything like that. It was kind of a different life growing up, I guess, than a lot of kids had, but never really had any faith growing up. I saw some things that definitely were not of God when I was younger, which led me to know that there was one side of the coin, right? But I had never seen the good side necessarily. Mm-hmm.
Are you talking about one side of faith, but not the good side of faith, or one side of life and
so I saw the evil side prior to seeing the good side, I guess, and not only the physical stuff, but the I guess the spiritual type of that side. Playing with Ouija boards and stuff like that when I was a kid that led to some really weird things. And even after that, seeing at that time I was a teenager. My dad, who was actually a practicing Catholic, right? He was going to church all the time and praying, and he would bless the house and things like that. Seeing what he did after that still didn't make me a believer. Up until the time that I met my wife, which we got together full time when I was 18, 19. She had a really amazing faith, and I didn't. She prayed and I wouldn't. She believed I didn't, things like that. But I think being around her and her influence definitely led me to try, I guess, at one point.
Did you go to high school with her? Is that where you met her?
Yeah, we actually dated in high school and separated, and then a little while later, a few years later, we got back together.
Was she a Christian in high school then, or
do you know? I think she believed, for sure. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I think she knew that Jesus was real. But yeah, I didn't. Right? I was the guy who would always ask the question: if God is real, or if Jesus is real, why would all this bad stuff be happening? Mm-hmm. Right? That was always my go-to. So I'm not really sure, other than her faith and seeing how she believed, what drew me there. But it was 2015, 16. We were training for a physique competition, and I was working out 2 hours a day. And
like a bodybuilding physique?
Yeah, I didn't always look like this. So. But yeah, so I would always listen to the same thing when I worked out. And I feel I've always had an attachment to music. My dad's dad was, he played the guitar and sing, and it's just been, it's just something that really impacts me and it always has. So I would listen to the same thing. It was dubstep, strength training radio on Pandora. And it just gets me motivated, right, to do my thing. And
mine's rock music.
There you go.
But yeah, okay.
Yeah, and prior to that, it's not like I always liked dubstep. I heard it one time and I was like, okay, this is good, man. It gets me hyped. So that's what I did. But we went to a motivational conference, and there was a guy there. The keynote speaker was late, so everybody was kind of taking turns coming back up and talking, trying to kill time.
So what I don't mean to interrupt you, but just to clarify, now at this point we're talking, what age are you at this point?
16. I was in my 30s. So
okay, so now we're past high school.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Are you and your wife together at this time?
Yep.
Like you've got, and are you married?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
okay,
we got married in 2005. So
okay, so this is what, 2015?
Mm-hmm.
So 10 years
16.
she's a Christian, loving Jesus, and you're like, my wife's nuts. She's hot, but she's nuts, kind of thing.
Yeah, not necessarily nuts. I just didn't believe, right?
Right.
It just wasn't for me. No convictions in my life to be different than what I was or anything like that. Not that I was a bad guy, right? I've always believed, from the moment that I laid eyes on her, that she was the one and I was going to marry her, and that would never change, right? But then at that time, like I said, something apparently was drawing me to it, because there was a pastor up on stage, and I wish I could remember his name, but I can't. But he made the comment that he said, "I don't care what religion you are. If you ask Jesus Christ to show himself to you, he will." And I was like, well, that's pretty cool, And he said, so if you'd like that to happen, say this prayer with me, and he'll show you. So I was like, what do I got to lose? So said the prayer. All that finishes, go back to working out and all that stuff, and I'm working out, and I hear a line in a song that says, one, it's not a dubstep song, which has never happened on the app that I'm listening to.
So a song cycled through that you weren't expecting.
Yeah. So it's not a dubstep song. It's just a hip hop song, and there's a line in there that says, "I don't live for the world, I live for the King." That's the only line that has anything to do with Christianity or anything. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, man, is that a Christian song? So I move on, keep working out, and then another one, and it's actually the NF and Flame song. That I'm sure you've heard, and that was a huge one. Start Over, and I was
that was the theme song to this. When we started, that was kind of the kickoff song, and actually we had to change because of copyright, and we're buying a license, trying to make this all legal. But that's the song that plays at the beginning of our. Once we get the copyright, it'll be back there.
Right. So. Yeah, that was the one that played, and I was like, okay, one, it was a good song, right? Mm-hmm. I figured I could listen to it, and then all of a sudden it was just song after song after song, like it was just Christian songs. So I'm sitting there at the gym. I was a firefighter at the time, so I'm working out at the police station gym, and I just look up and I say, all right, I get it. You know what I mean? I asked, and here you are. So I went out and bought a Bible, and as far as my faith, I guess the rest is kind of history.
So you through working out, God speaking through music is kind of what led you to faith. So you're at the gym. Okay, I get it. I want to be a Christian. Did you run home and tell your wife? How did that conversation, that dynamic? Then I bet your wife had to be beyond the moon. That finally, my husband.
Yeah, it didn't really take place like that. So I was like, okay, this is cool. I said, all right, I hear you. And I kind of left it at that for a little bit. I actually have a friend who's just in the faith. He knows the word, and he was kind of talking to me at the moment. Like I remember I was really into self-development, motivation, things like that, and I put a post on Facebook. Hey, what can I read to make me a better man? And he put it, what about the Bible? So, so after that, I was like, okay, got you. So went and got one. But he was the person that I talked to about it first, right? And then kind of telling my wife the story. She was happy, but at the time she wasn't like a church going, Christian, things like that. She just had faith. When I would say, something is messed up, or she would say like, no, God has it. It's okay. Mm-hmm. And I was just like, come on, you know what I mean? So I've learned since then that she was right, 100%. And yeah, that's kind of where the journey of my faith started. Really slow, as a matter of fact. Like I didn't. I guess that fire wasn't lit. I became a believer. I knew that that Jesus was real, right? Because he answered that prayer that I said, but I didn't have that fire lit to me until late 21, early 22, which is the story that I shared with you.
And we'll go into that as we go. But so just to understand the timeline, so this is what, 2015?
Yeah, 2015, 16, somewhere around there.
Okay, so from 2015, you realize, hey, the Lord is real.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I you punch your ticket to heaven or whatever. Lord, okay, fine. I accept you. Mm-hmm. Does your life change at all? Or is it very, very incremental? Like you notice small changes in your life? Or how did that kind of play out over the next couple years? Did you guys start going to church? Did you like, hey, I want to go to church now and I read my Bible daily? Or was it just like, I have an acknowledgement that there's a God, but I'm going to live life just knowing that there's a God?
Yeah, so I started reading my Bible. I bought a Bible. I started reading a little bit what I could, but I listened to a lot of it, like on my way to and from work. Mm-hmm. And I remember one day being in the car and thinking to myself, what I had always said, if God is real, why is all this messed up stuff in the world? And I remember hearing it wasn't audible, right? But like thinking or something in my head said, God isn't going to stop free will. So if people want to do evil, they do evil, right? It's a promise that he made. And I sat there for a second driving along and I'm like, man, I didn't say that. You know what I mean? Like that wasn't me. Right. And, that was another one of those, okay, I hear you. But just kept going. I made it through the Bible, had way more questions than I had answers at that point, I think. Started going to church at a church that a friend referred me to in Arizona there. And really, I guess I feel like I'm so broken that anytime the Holy Spirit is on me, I'm just crying. It's just a kind of a weird thing, but music, like, the worship portion of what the church was doing, it always spoke to me, and I'd be sitting there saving songs in my phone as that's playing, and it was just a good time for me. And then we ended up moving from where we were at to Northern Arizona. Had to find a new church. Took a while. And I've noticed that when I get I get really on fire, and then all of a sudden something happens, and I kind of back off, right? And it happens. It's kind of a cycle for me, I guess.
I think that's most Christians. I found, especially with me, I have real high highs, real low lows, and what we want to do is get to the place where it's more steady. You're gonna have a little bit of a high,
right,
and a little bit of a low, but pretty much we're that axis line where whether I'm going through a spiritual high or I'm dealing with depression, I lean on the Lord, I pray to God, and I trust in Him. But I think genuinely that's what most people do. They're like, I preached the gospel to my friend, he gave his life to Christ, and the next day you're like, I can't pay my bills, and I feel like my whole life's imploding. And then the next day you go to church and you're like, I had the best worship time, and I think that's the natural curve for most people. Mm-hmm. But I think the goal would then be to get to the point where we're like, hey, I led my friend to Christ. Mm-hmm. And the next day you're like, man, we got an issue, and you're not that you can't be on fire, but you just kind of stay on mission. Mm-hmm. I think.
Yeah.
So you're pretty common.
Yeah, and I think it's having the perspective of God's promise, I guess, always in your mind. I've always said, since I got to that point where I was really believing that being a Christian doesn't take you outside of the human experience. You just think about it differently, mm-hmm. right? So when bad things happen, that this isn't where you're supposed to be, right? So the promise is not here on earth. Right, the promise is somewhere else. So it's okay that those bad things happen, and we pray for them. And I've learned to try to be thankful for those bad things, because if bad things are happening to me, I'm still breathing. You know what I mean? So that's kind of a big jump from definitely where I was. Right, there is no Jesus, and this is crazy. Like, you guys are believing in something that's not real. To just working on giving everything to him, because it doesn't always happen like that, right? Sometimes I'm upset and angry about the day, and there's no giving that over on those days, but the next day I try to get back to it.
Well, grace and mercy, I think, and God, He's the God of human beings, and He created us and us together in our mother's womb, and He understands that. And I thank goodness, because He would have destroyed me longer, because I lived that life. and I still think sometimes I fall into that trap. Like, oh, today was a great day. We shot a podcast and had an amazing conversation. And the next day I'm at work and I'm like, I can't, I won't want to do this anymore. So, so 2015 and you're starting to grow very incrementally. And we work on a different timeline than God. Like for me, I'm thinking, hey, here, God, here's my idea. I want to start here and I want to be here. And this is the way I want to go. And God's like, that's not how this works.
Yeah.
You can start there, but I'm going to take you the track that I need you to go so that when you do get there, you're successful.
Right.
And so some people fall in love with Jesus and just are ablaze. And then some people go out, but you know, he's led you slowly for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So we're starting to move towards your story that you shared. So before we go into actually what took place, before you went through that, were you the same style, like real high highs, real low lows, or were you at that point, were you really starting to grow with your relationship? Like, I know him and I know what he wants from me. I read my Bible, I pray daily. Or were you still just...
Yeah, no, definitely still don't know what he wants from me, just being honest. I was learning and I was getting convictions in my life to be different, right? And including, I grew up a hardcore gangster rap lover. I was a rapper when I was a kid and things like that. And that's just was my thing, right? I liked all genres of music, but that was always my thing. So I felt myself convicted to not listen to the hardcore stuff that I was listening to. I've been trying to stop cursing since 2016.
Us too, but if you ever watch this, Matt Carter does not. Yeah. He keeps cussing.
Yeah, so been trying to do that, and but yeah, I could feel that things were different, right? One way or another, just things that I'm like, I never thought music was a bad thing, right? Because I wasn't out, shooting guns and things like that. Right. So I felt that me listening to it wasn't a big deal, but I definitely think that I was convicted to be different, and not only for me, but for my kids, right? I'm listening to this stuff, and my kids are listening to it too. So, that was part of what I felt was different for sure. And then just the drive to go to church and to actually learn. I've got serious ADHD, so being really consistent on my prayer life and reading my Bible is pretty hard. I do a friend of mine that I met online. He's from Australia. He invited me to a Bible study where we go through the Bible every year. And I think I've been doing that for 3 or 4 years with him now, and that keeps me pretty consistent on that part. But I really like to open up my Bible, right? It's real hard for me to be consistent in that, I think. So
I struggle because you had talked about listening to the Bible. I know the way I learn is I learn better hearing than reading, because I get confused and turned around, and I might read a paragraph and then I go, I don't even remember what I read in the beginning of the paragraph.
Yeah,
so
same.
The Bible app, technology, a lot of people are like, technology is terrible if it's used wrong, but there's a lot of technology out there that can help us.
Yeah. I mean, the majority of the stuff that I know is from listening, right? So because I'm really consistent with that. Even if I fall off for a few days, right, I go back and I catch up, and I always make it to the end, and I've read through the Bible or listened several times now. So but yeah, as far as being, I do pray, and I just speak out loud to God anytime I think about it, right? I worship in the morning on the way to work, and my whole trip here from Arizona was people, I'm sure they saw me raising my hand in my truck and just worshiping and praising, and so yeah, I just try to do it when I think about it, because if I don't, I won't. You know what I mean?
Well, so. I think Paul said, pray without ceasing, and the idea is not like constantly on your knees, but the idea that you're constantly acknowledging him and that he's there. Like it says, where 2 or more gathered, so we know he's here with us right now.
100%.
And as we're going through a work day, even a slight prayer like, Lord, help me with this moment, or at work we have some difficult discussions to have sometimes, and before we go into that, say, Lord, as I go in this discussion, give me the words to say, like those kind of things. So
100%.
So you're growing, and you're studying, and you're learning, and now we're going to hit a crisis moment that you shared with me, and we're going to start that, and if we run out of time, no problem. We'll bring you back next week.
All right.
And continue the conversation. So let's kind of dive into that. So is is your real quick? Is your wife at the same time? Is she growing also? Are you guys doing this together, or is it like I have my own faith at this moment?
Yeah. So yeah, I would say that our faiths are both that we know that God exists, right? But I'm doing different things, right? I'm trying to study. I'm trying to learn and come to know God, which I feel like she already did, right? And I'm just trying to build that relationship. But at the time, I don't believe either one of us had a church life at all. So
Well, you were a firefighter, right?
I was until I had a pretty bad back injury, which happened when I was training for that competition. So it took me out of the game, and so yeah, that's where I ended up.
And I would say that you probably experienced, like, I'm military, and I have PTSD from some stuff I saw and experienced in the military. I would assume that there was, like you talked about seeing the ugly side of the world, you really probably had the opportunity to see some really ugly stuff because you're a first responder and responding to car accidents, bad fires. Probably, my understanding is now anytime the cops are called, they automatically roll a fire department or something like that. So I'm assuming that in your job, there were things that you had to see and experience that no person should have to see and experience, right?
Not too much as a firefighter. So I was a volunteer firefighter, and then I was a firefighter in the oil fields. But where we come from is a really small town. I mean, we had 3 stoplights for forever, so it was a super small town. I seen a couple traffic fatalities and fires and stuff like that, but nothing to the magnitude as what some firefighters and police officers see. I guess I got to see the ugly part of the world when I worked in corrections. That would be the part. But yeah, I grew up kind of a broken home, drugs in the house and things like that. And even with that stuff when I was little, it was a great time for me as a kid until my mom and dad separated, and then things kind of took a turn. But I grew up doing drugs and things like that.
Like you actually did drugs?
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah, I joined the family business for sure.
It's one way to put it.
Yeah, for sure. So,
I was too scared.
But I mean, again, small town, right? There wasn't a whole lot to do other than drink, party, do drugs, and things like that. So, and I think it made me the person I am today, and I'm here, right? But I 100% believe that if I wouldn't have met my wife, I would have killed myself out there doing something, right? So my mom used to tell her that she saved me, and it's good to think that maybe she saved me from something evil, but I think she just saved me from me. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
so,
I totally believe me. I totally get it. So.
Yeah.
So now we kind of worked through that, and now we're getting ready to hit. At this point, what are you doing for a living?
In 2016 when I was saved, or
no. So you
in the crisis moment that we were talking about.
Yeah, so you had hurt your back. Did you recover from that, or did it just kind of all of a sudden you're like, I can't be a fireman anymore. I need to go.
Yeah, so I was, like I said, I was volunteer. So I would only respond to fires when I wasn't doing my regular job. At the time I was working in aeronautics, and it was, I lost my train of thought. So at the time I was working in aeronautics, but it wasn't like none of that stuff impacted my faith. I don't think too much, right? When I got to the point to where I had this crisis situation, we had moved up north. I had a couple different jobs trying to find, I guess, the right spot for me. I started in a cabinet shop that the guy kind of promised me the world and just didn't pan out. So I I was doing doors and windows when I
installing them.
Building them.
Yeah,
okay. Yeah, building doors and things like that. So.
Okay. Well, we're kind of winding down right now, and we got a base of who you are and kind of where you came from. I know I don't look like it, but I listened to gangster rap too as a child, and really I had two sides. I had the, like Tribe Called Quest, but then I listened to Ice-T, Ice Cube,
right.
So yeah. I very much understand, and I loved that music at that time,
for sure.
And the beats and the sounds, but my taste in music has changed considerably. And two, 100%. There's times where I hear some and I'm like, is that the DOC? And then after I listen for a minute, I'm like, ooh, this stings,
Yeah.
So I totally get that. But as we wind down right now, we're gonna bring you back next week if you'd be willing, and we'll go into. We keep alluding to this crisis time, and when we come back, we'll start there and start talking about like days leading up, and then kind of going into that, and then all that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, that'll work.
Again, thank you so much for joining us on Battleground Believers this week. Let's continue to pray for Matt Carter and his family, and as details come out of what he's dealing with, and once he's back in studio, I think we'll have a time where he'll just kind of lay his heart on the table and explain what he's dealing with. But in the meantime, we love our brother. We miss him. We wish he was here. The studio is definitely better looking without him in here. Just kidding. Again, want to thank Randy Barr and the 2 Bar Blue Studio, and really want to thank Chaz Garcia for coming in today, and you as an audience. Thank you so much for tuning in. Like, share, subscribe, and share the channel. It really helps us out. And all who call on the name of the Lord shall be saved.